You just had to spoil the fun, didn't you? Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 movies that should have gotten a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
See, Mr. Gitz, most people never have to face the fact that at the right time and the right place, they're capable of anything.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. For this list, we're looking at classic films that are only one rotten review away from a perfect 100% score, as of October 2018.
What'd you do that for?
So I could twist the broken end in your face.
Number 10. The Manchurian Candidate. In the 60s, it was the middle of the Cold War, which made this suspense thriller extremely poignant for its time.
Raymond Shaw is the kindest, bravest, warmest, most wonderful human being I've ever known in my life.
Thanks to its powerful satire and political themes, it remains relevant today. So it's not surprising that John Frankenheimer's film adaptation of Richard Condon's 1959 novel has a 98% Rotten Tomatoes rating. Out of 54 reviews, it has one rotten one from the New York Times' Bosley Crowther, who states, quote, "pops up with a rash supposition that could serve to scare some viewers half to death."
His brain has not only been washed, as they say, it has been dry cleaned.
Despite his criticism, it's hard to ignore the film's 2 Oscar nods, status in the US National Film Registry, and its incredible acting, story, and production.
It's a terrible thing to hate your mother. But I didn't always hate her. When I was a child, I only kind of disliked her.
Number 9. King Kong. King Kong is the quintessential monster movie. It's often regarded as one of the most technically ambitious movies of all time, and Kong himself is one of cinema's greatest icons. As of writing, the movie holds a 98% rating, with 1 of 56 reviews being rotten. The review comes from William Troy of The Nation, who praised the technical ingenuity, but criticized the blending of horror and romance, writing, quote, "They failed to realize that such a union was possible only by straining out powers of credulity." However, one could argue that it is the blending and the humanity itself that makes King Kong, both the movie and the creature, such a classic.
Well, Denham, the airplane's got him. Oh, no. It wasn't the airplanes. It was beauty killed the beast.
Number 8. Once Upon a Time in the West. When it comes to spaghetti westerns, no one does it better than Sergio Leone.
Looks like we're shy of one horse.
You brought too many.
Once Upon a Time in the West is a brilliant blend of character work, western action, epic scope, cinematography, and music, and it's rightfully regarded as one of the greatest westerns ever made. Funnily enough, the only rotten review comes from none other than Roger Ebert himself. However, one could argue that it's not even rotten, as he gave the movie 2.5 stars out of 4. The only problems he seemed to have were the movie's length and its meandering plot, writing, quote, "We're well into the second hour of the movie before the plot becomes quite clear."
How can you trust a man that wears both a belt and suspenders? Man can't even trust his own pants.
Number 7. Chinatown. Unfortunately, this is an instance of separating art from the creator.
Mainly that you're rich and too respectable to want your name in the newspapers.
Of course I'm respectable. I'm old.
The movie's director, Roman Polanski, might be one of the most infamous figures in Hollywood history, but regardless of the crimes he's been accused of, Chinatown remains an undeniable masterpiece, a brilliant blend of film noir and psychological drama, with one of the most famous endings in movie history. The only rotten review of 64 comes from prominent movie critic Gene Siskel, one half of the classic team Siskel and Ebert. What is with these guys giving bad reviews to classic movies? He criticized the movie's tedium and overproduction, writing, quote, "The opening shot of almost every scene has been artificially overcomposed."
Forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown.
Number 6. Rosemary's Baby.
They called it Black Bramford.
But hush. Awful things happen in every apartment house.
This house has a high incidence of unpleasant happenings. In '59, a dead infant was found, wrapped in newspaper in the basement.
Roman Polanski's movies can't seem to catch a break. His masterpiece, Rosemary's Baby, is often considered one of the greatest horror movies of all time, mostly due to the slowly rising tension, iconic ending, and Mia Farrow's brilliant performance. It holds an oh-so-close 99% rating, with the only rotten review of 69 coming from the New York Times. While critic Renata Adler found the movie pleasant to watch, she still criticized its, in her opinion, feeble attempts at darkness. However, it seems as if everyone else disagrees and finds the movie to be a perfectly dark and depraved classic.
What have you done to it? What have you done to its eyes?
Number 5. On the Waterfront.
You think you got almighty, but you know what you are?
Emma.
You're a cheap, lousy, dirty, stinking mug! And I'm glad what I've done to you!
Marlon Brando is often denied his well-deserved 100% rating. A Streetcar Named Desire, the movie that made him a household name, has a 98% rating, with 1 of 55 reviews being rotten, while his acting masterclass On the Waterfront also has a 98% rating, with only 1 rotten review of 62.
You don't understand. I could have had class. I could have been a contender.
The offending review comes from Michael E. Grost of Classic Film and Television, who called it an, quote, overrated melodrama about the alleged wonders of informing. Despite Grost's opinion, On the Waterfront is considered a contender for the best movie of all time, or at least one of them.
He wanted my philosophy of life. Do it to him before he does it to you.
Number 4. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. When it comes to the most important animated movies of all time, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is easily in the running.
I'm wishing for the one I love to find me.
However, Eric Henderson of Slant doesn't seem to agree with its legacy, as he provided the movie's sole negative review. Henderson criticized the movie's interest in the craftsmanship over art, stating that it, quote, fails to transcend its insipid characters, kitschy setting, and abysmal pacing. He also argues that the movie is unfairly praised simply for being the first Disney movie, and while we can agree that superior Disney movies have been made, there's simply no denying Snow White's legacy and impact on the medium of film.
Now take the apple, dearie, and make a wish.
Number 3. Sunset Boulevard. Often considered the quintessential film noir and one of the first cinematic critiques of Hollywood, Sunset Boulevard is a masterpiece with an enduring legacy to match.
After that, an army of beauty experts invaded her house on Sunset Boulevard. She went through a merciless series of treatments. Like an athlete training for the Olympic Games, she counted every calorie.
And while it enjoys a 98% score and an astounding average rating of 9.3 on 10, there remains that one pesky negative review from Kevin Carr of 7M Pictures. Carr praises the realistic depiction of Hollywood, but states that it is, quote, just another example of film noir from the 50s. However, he also admits that, quote, some of the impact is lost on him, having grown up in the Star Wars era where special effects ruled the day. So, there's that to consider as well.
I'd always heard that you had some talent.
That was last year. This year I'm trying to earn a living.
Number 2. Dr. Strangelove.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Stanley Kubrick is one of the most talented visionaries to ever operate in Hollywood, but there's no denying that his movies are incredibly divisive. Some people love the atmospheres he creates, while others can't seem to grasp his eccentricity. Dr. Strangelove is one of his many masterpieces, coming in at 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, with 75 fresh and 1 rotten review. It comes from David Newsare of Real Film, who calls its legacy baffling. Newsare criticizes the movie's meandering narrative, sense of humor, and talky vibe, calling it a, quote, unfocused, unfunny black comedy.
I will not go down in history as the greatest mass murderer since Adolf Hitler.
Perhaps it might be better, Mr. President, if you were more concerned with the American people than with your image in the history books.
Before we unveil our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions.
You don't know what you're doing, miss. I'll perish without a hair of the dog. Oh, miss.
Number 1. Metropolis. Metropolis is a German expressionist movie from the silent film era that is lauded for its visual effects, with many critics calling it a seminal work in the science fiction genre. And wouldn't you know, out of 118 reviews collected on Rotten Tomatoes, only 1 is negative. It comes from Variety, who praised the movie's artistic achievement but criticized the manufactured story. This was a common criticism when Metropolis was first released in 1927, and Variety isn't the only outlet to criticize the movie. Sci-fi pioneer H.G. Wells called the movie silly, and the Encyclopedia of Science Fiction has criticized its trite storyline. Nonetheless, its influence feels worthy of that coveted 100%. Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.